Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pull Focus, the cinema-based entertainment podcast where a couple of freelancers come together to talk shop. My name is Mike, and as always, I am joined by my brother in crime, the one, the only, the indivisible, though isolated, Mr. Robert Andrus. Applause.
Really, just thank you. That's just too much. Keep going, but that's just too much. Thank you. Thank you. And one last applause from myself.
Yay! Excellent. Always a pleasure to see your face, especially in troubling times, Andrus.
Yeah, this is fun.
It is absolutely cool. Absolutely cool.
I wish I was divisible right now with the whole isolation part of my personality.
For sure.
Split as it is. I think about an appropriately named movie.
Oh man, I can't wait to get into like just the psychological ramifications of this one.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. To help us though deal with the isolation, we actually have some company, ladies and gentlemen, a returning guest of the show, my lovely, talented mother, actor for many a decade, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Sharon Hayes.
Thank you.
Applause.
Nice to see you again.
Yes, good to see you.
Well, I'm sort of invisible.
Okay. So you're
just a floating head.
You're a
in the
floating
back.
head on this podcast. It's okay. It's just
nobody needs to know that. It's your voice that matters.
Exactly.
Right.
It is Pull Focus, everybody. We are so very happy to be able to be back together, though separated. We are here to provide you with a little bit of insight from people who have been in the trenches, who can give you a little bit of the real deal, not just the glamorous, cool stuff about movies in general, but also maybe just some of the realistic stuff and all that other good junk. And we're just happy to be able to provide whatever we can to the 6 listeners that we have on the YouTube channel.
Did it move up to 6?
It's holding steady.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? Even in hard times, you have the capability to be consistent. I love it. But
one of these days, it's gonna blow up, and we're just gonna get into the millions.
I love it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Or like 12 to 16 billion.
I love it. We won't have to keep paying the 18 people that I have to constantly provide money for to clap for us online.
Right. Yeah. That was a real recording somewhere.
Absolutely. At one point, it was a real thing
for us.
But
it was ours.
God. I'm just so very happy to be able to speak with the Andrus and also to bring Mom into this too, and especially again, like last episode, we're gonna take a second now and also probably at the end to just say thank you. We know that things are a little bit tough right now in this COVID era that we're dealing with, and if you are taking a little bit of your time to listen to us spout out about this amazing movie that we're going to talk about, we are really appreciate it. We're just here to talk shop. We're here to waste a little time, and if we can make things easier for you, then have at it. I know being able to talk with you, Andrus, and especially having my mom who lives with me now. I told you it would happen. I told you. But
Really?
yeah. But just personally, it's really good to be able to have you take some of your time today and let us talk about really kind of like a movie that got a lot of acclaim about a decade ago with stunning performance, even though it had a limited cast, and appropriate for the times because it is a movie about an individual being isolated. We, of course, are talking about the movie
M-O-O-N.
That's Moon, for those of us who can't spell, starring Sam Rockwell. Here we go. Here's
backwards. It's Noom.
Right. let's take a look at the trailer and see what's in store for us.
Sam Bell reporting to Central. Everything running smoothly. Over and out. Rock and roll. God bless America.
Yikes. Like the CGI here was just beginning to turn over,
Wow, they did such an incredible job.
The number one provider of clean energy worldwide due to the hard work of people like you.
Yeah. Dude.
3 years is a long haul.
I know you're really lonely.
I like that he talks to plants. 'cause I do
Absolutely.
this-
Absolutely.
2 weeks to go, Sam.
2 weeks to go, buddy.
I'm going home.
Looks like we got a live one. I'm gonna go out.
Okay, Sam.
This is a great trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you as well.
It does kind of give away a bit, but like not everything.
It really, for me, it really sort of made me want to see the movie more.
Yeah.
You know what's
Oh,
going on.
jeez.
Come outside. Who is he? You tell me who that is.
Perhaps you're imagining things.
Dude.
What's going on? Where did he come from? Why does he look like me? You've been up here too long, man. You've lost your marbles. 2 weeks. I don't understand what's happening. This is my mind. I want to go home.
I know.
Man. Great trailer. So, guys, we're talking about the 2009 Sundance hit and what later became a major, just a prominent chapter in the acting career of one Mr. Sam Rockwell, one of my personal favorites. Applause. We're talking about Moon. This was a film directed by Duncan Jones and co-written by Nathan Parker. And this movie did a really, really good job, I think, of really showing what quality can provide over quantity. Because, quite honestly, this was a film that was kind of like whose weight was held mostly by the shoulders of Sam Rockwell. We were able to get some work from another podcast regular, I guess, Mr. Kevin Spacey. We were talking about this last week, Andrus. We're like, the previous one had him, and now this one's like, okay. But also we have like Dominique McElligott. We have Benedict Wong, Matt Berry, and somebody that's God bless you, and just a cast that again doesn't have like, we're not talking about like numbers like Avengers like level kind of here, but you don't really need it when you have capable people and a very, very well produced set and just this really cool way of using the technical simple shots that we see in the movie. This is just a really good example of like where properly planned technical filmmaking that's simple, that's bare bones, and still very capable, like some model work and some CGI and a good cast. I mean, that's one thing that I really enjoyed about Moon, where we have Sam Rockwell's character, who is named Sam Bell, and we travel with him during this exploratory search into how he is able to deal with the fact that his life really isn't what it seems, on top of being isolated, on top of being lonely. A lot of things that probably resonates with what some of us are feeling right now, being in our own space capsules, having to stay inside and having to limit the capabilities that we have to meet people and talk to people. Andrus, like you really knocked it out of the park when you suggested this film, because I think that especially like even nowadays, it really does provide us with a fictional picture as to how isolation can really affect people. And we see that, I think, that metamorphosis when it comes to Sam Rockwell's character, especially when he starts playing two of them. What do you think are like the initial things that kind of hit you when you first rewatched this film? Do you think that it was impactful because of like what we're dealing with right now, or do you think that it's hard hitting because, I mean, this is kind of like right down your alley, I would assume. I mean, I'm not
yeah, I mean, like as far as being an actor.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
Is
I was about to say that.
Yeah, that's why it stood out in my mind way back. It came out in 2009. It was a really impactful movie then. I was already familiar with Sam Rockwell's work, big fan of the Spacey, and everything else was just kind of cherries on top because it was so well done.
Yeah.
And I mean, just being immersed into the idea of a space station on the moon and that complete isolation where your only real companion is artificial intelligence
Right.
in the form of a robot arm.
Voiced by Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, voiced by Kevin Spacey. And ultimately, the voice could have been anybody, but there was such a humanity that came through in how that was portrayed that you really did feel like that was the only friendship and the only relationship in there.
Yeah, well, if you got a big robot that can lift 2 tons, what else do you need? I mean, especially when you can sing lullabies to you, I guess. I think that's something that really resonated with me too, where it was not only a situation, because I saw Moon when it came out. I wasn't there when it was on fire in the Sundance circuit and the festival circuit.
No, I saw it later in the theaters as well,
Yeah,
but I did see it in the theater.
But still, it resonated with me back then. Coming from like a perspective of somebody who isn't a millennial, Mom, like when you go through and you see stuff like this, you have a theater background, and one of the things that I thought that I found interesting is something that Andrus and I have talked about before, like the way that things are shot here and the way that the production was rolling through, except for like, the model work and the CGIs. This whole thing, this thing could be a stage production, quite honestly. I mean,
very much so. And it would be a beautiful stage.
It really
production.
would be. The production on this and the scene design and everything was meticulous. But what do you, Mom? I want to like ask you about that because you've been doing theater for decades. What do you think is the right way to translate something like this onto the big screen? We're dealing with like an isolated set, an isolated cast, and by isolated I mean like a minimal, but we still have the capability of being able to kind of like hit hard. Is it like just like the humanity behind it, or do you think it's like just the way in which it came out technically? I mean, because the CGI stuff was impressive, but I mean, it definitely is a sign of the times. It's 10-year-old CGI, and you can tell. But what do you think kind of resonated with you on that level, where you're looking at this and it could be translated into a play? Did it kind of like ring a couple bells for you from your background, or was it more of like, ooh, it's Sam Rockwell, I like this movie?
No, it my first thought about it when I was thinking about as talking about it on this show. The first thing that came to my mind was the excellence of the editing, because you have just the one set, and you can't just have a camera shot, a wide shot on that one set.
Right.
And I think that the interior, the editing of the interior scenes was very well done. I also have to say, I think that the direction on this was very well executed. It's hard to do something like this on film when it's so obviously just a one-shot deal, I mean,
etc.
Exactly.
Right.
See, and Robert's brought that up before, where sometimes you can save effort and save time just by switching the shot. And that's actually a pet peeve that we've talked about, where you don't have shots that switch it up, that actually run with the narrative, where you can have breaks in a story, obviously, right? If you have a movie and like the action has to change, you have to, you have to put in different characters, you have to, insert different plot points and that kind of stuff. But when you just do it to switch it up because, it isn't going to introduce something like that that's going to change the story, develop the narrative, it's kind of like wasted time in a sense. And that's something that we see.
Motivation behind
absolutely,
it.
Absolutely.
That's the whole reason for a talk about motivation.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well,
Absolutely.
That's something that we see in independent film. And this, though it had like a larger budget than a lot of films of the era, this was an independent movie. And I think one of the main reasons, obviously, that, you don't see like huge crane shots or a big divergence in regards to the 1v1s versus the wides and that kind of stuff is because they couldn't afford to. They had a limited budget and they had a limited amount of time, and it's like, well, let's try and make one set. We'll play these tricks with the zooms and the wide angle lenses and try to make it look bigger than it is, and then we'll have Sam go through and just try and capture what's happening here by the development that we have with the additional character that comes through. But
for me, I think it was completely intentional on the part of this project, whereas in other projects you're using that as a fix.
Yes.
Or you're using that as a solution to a problem. I think that they thought this out and they executed everything based on the knowledge of what they were going to do. I'm curious to find out how their pre-production went,
Sure.
because I would guess that it was really well thought out.
Yeah. I mean, it would have to be. The efficiency you can see on the screen. And when we're talking about efficiency, I mean, that's something that Duncan Jones, the writer and director of this movie, is not... he's not, a stranger to. We're talking about the man who gave us Source Code, that great Gyllenhaal movie where he's trapped on the train. Kind of like the same kind of situation we have with this one. We have a Mute that came out in 2018. Not as it was made for Netflix, not as critically acclaimed, but still had that great shooting style where you paid attention to the main character throughout the entire narrative and didn't waste one shot. And then, of course, he was also the director for the World of Warcraft movie, which I happen to be a World of Warcraft fan, so it was pretty cool. But again, could be argued that it may have been a little bit less in quality. But when it comes to Moon, his directorial, not his directorial debut, but like the one that everybody knows him for, he definitely hit it out of the
really
park.
was his launching pad, I would say.
Yeah,
for sure, into a mainstream audience.
One could say that it was the launch pad for the space shuttle or satellite. Or no, okay, fine, I'll stop. That was his career. Nothing. Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Wait, can we be a little bit more punny? Because I love fun.
Okay.
I wanted to point out that it's interesting that Sam Rockwell and Benedict Wong are both part of the Marvel universe.
Yes, absolutely.
Make that connection.
How could we not forget Sam Rockwell's incredible performance in the Iron Man movies and Benedict Wong playing the Magician Friday in Doctor Strange? That kind of stuff is ridiculous and awesome. But when you have quality talent, when you have a production, regardless of how independent it is, but gets this much acclaim that is literally put on the shoulders of a cast of roughly half a dozen people, I think it's really safe to say that when you have something of this quality, you're going to see them going through over and over again and getting more work, which speaks to a lot of the actors that were in this production.
Yes, very much.
That's one thing that I wanted to kind of bring up too, because you guys kind of mentioned it before, where we have like this forcible attitude where, because, like what you were talking about, Andrus, because we're not using these wide pans, because we're not using like, these huge crane shots that zoom out, the most that we're getting is some model work with like the rovers that are on and the mining stuff, and like some CGI shots that are coming up when we have like, space shuttles and ships and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For the most part. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
That again, for me, it just set the tone for what this movie is.
Right.
You're in the expanse of space, but you're so isolated.
Exactly.
It's so contrary.
And that's something that great sci-fi holds together. I think that the movies that really resonate with us as a community are the ones that have that dichotomy. You're in the blackness of space. There's so much room. There's everything there. But you can only survive in like these tight, pinched in areas. And we see that in Aliens. We see that in Sunshine. We see that in like, Star Wars and that kind of stuff. But the way that the sets, because I think I kind of characterize it with Kevin Spacey's character Gertie, the AI / robot arm that was there to assist Sam with what he was doing. I kind of thought of like the entire bay, the entire station as Gertie itself. Mm-hmm. So I kind of found like this weird kind of situation where you have somebody who is ridiculously isolated and the set and the shots back that up. But like what you were talking about before, we see the most humanity out of the inhuman character in the film. Why do you think, and I want to ask both of you guys this because both of you have done your own share of character studies in that regard, why do you think it's so easy for us to want to give Gertie a hug, where even though we see Sam Rockwell's character, especially towards the latter part of the film where, spoilers.
Spoiler alerts! Spoiler alerts!
It's from 2009. Don't do it.
I know, right? Where we find out that Sam Bell is actually a clone of another man off of Earth, and that the entire mining operation of Lunar, the company, is based upon the sacrificial lambs that only live about 3 years, these clones of this one individual. So Sam Rockwell was not only playing... Sam Rockwell was not even playing one character, he's playing two. And even though towards the later part of the film where the older clone that Sam was playing started, getting sick and deteriorating and ultimately passed away by the end of the film, I cared about that character, but the person that whose feelings I cared about the most, honestly, was Gertie. So how do right. How do you guys think that translates? Like, how could I have more feelings, besides being like a psychopath myself, of course, how could I have more feelings for a robot than I could the human being, the red-blooded person who's suffering through all this, can actually feel the pain and everything?
Because of the
Yeah,
voice.
I have an opinion, and I wonder
Go ahead.
if we agree on this one. So
Throw it at us.
Go ahead.
Go right ahead, dude.
I'm waiting to hear.
Go for it.
Okay.
I want you to go first and to
Go ahead,
see
Mom.
if it's what I agree with.
I think it will be,
Okay.
but we'll see. Go ahead.
I think that the reason you have those kinds of human emotional feelings toward Gertie is solely due to the
Careful.
I'm going to stick with it.
All right.
Is solely due to the actor who plays that role,
Who is?
who is Kevin Spacey.
Oh, golly.
Because he has such vocal I was
Capability.
going to say training, but
Yeah.
of course he does. But he just has
Presence, gravitas.
Yeah.
Yeah, he brings all of that to it, and even though you only see an arm, you know, a robot,
And not even a human one.
arm, it's still you have compassion for that
Sure.
and empathy towards that, and it's all due to the fact that Kevin Spacey is a wonderful voice actor.
Yeah. We've talked about that at length, but go ahead, Andrus.
So that wasn't what I was going to go
Thank
with.
God.
Okay.
But I will give you props because I also agree with you.
Oh, okay.
So there is that,
Okay.
right? But
No, I'm
there's
kidding.
stop it.
I'm kidding.
Stop it.
I'm kidding. Sorry.
But there's a couple things. I was going to bring up the emojis later because the physicality or the imagery of the emojis certainly affects us now.
Yeah, totally.
More so than any other time frame in our history, because emojis are such an effective way for us to communicate.
We communicate a lot through images nowadays, for sure.
Yeah. So that's part of it. But for me, it's the idea of these guys are going through so much, and I call them guys because I think they're very different people, even though they're the same.
I absolutely agree. We should talk about that too.
They're the same biomass.
Yeah.
But they're very different, and I think that there is that bridge of support that Gertie provides that's programmed into him.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time,
Yeah.
there's almost an edge of compassion in there.
Well, he goes outside of his programming.
Goes outside of its programming, so there's a little bit of a little bit of a rebel. There's there's things for us to identify as humans, as sympathetic entities that are drawn to that kind of support, right? If I'm going crazy, I want somebody to tell me it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely, no question.
Trauma, I want somebody to tell me it's okay.
Yes,
you'll get through this, and that's what he provides the entire time, is a support to all of the crap that Sam's going through.
To not only that Sam, but also all the ones previous to him. And I think that's one thing that really I loved about, like, it wasn't written into the narrative, but right before Sam shut Gertie down.
Spoiler alert!
Wow.
Spoiler alert!
Ooh, you have to watch it right now.
I know, right? But the thing that scene is really powerful because I think that it's Gertie. He's sacrificing himself so that Sam will be safe, because the point of dialogue that Gertie is throwing out is that, like, Gertie said, "You're not safe unless you erase my memory banks. I have all these recorded things going about." And what's really interesting to me is that's when it hit me. It's like, holy crap, he hasn't just seen this particular Sam die. I mean, we look at how the production has outfitted the station, has outfitted Gertie. Gertie has coffee stains on him. He has notes on him and that kind of stuff. He's seen 6 generations or so of the same individual go through this pain, go through this rebirth, go through this atomization, quite literally. And now after a time, I really think Gertie, the AI, got so sophisticated that he fell in love with Sam, that he loved Sam as an individual, and that was how he was able to use his prime directive, my one job is to protect you, Sam, as an excuse to go against protocol to help him with these codes that came through.
Yeah, that's an interesting process, because I think that there's a lot of validity to that.
Right, and that's simple writing. See, that's one thing I really do enjoy about this film. It's simple quality over quantity. It makes rules, and then it sticks to them, which is something that when it comes to these major blockbuster hits, doesn't happen all the time. And you said it before, Andrus. One of the things that really bothers you, and I back you up on this a lot, is that whenever you have to fill in the lines, it takes you out of the immersion. And when it takes you out of the immersion, that means you're watching not a bad movie, but I mean,
no, just probably not a well thought out movie.
Yeah, exactly. Mom, do you think that when it comes to that situation, obviously I think you have a point, because Kevin Spacey, who later went on to do video game work, books on tape, he was ended up filling in a lot of his towards the end of his career. He was able to fill out a lot of roles that were just voiceover, which I think there's weight to what you're saying about having this actor who is somebody that we can grow with when it comes to his voice, who's nurturing, who has that kind of quality to his acting capability. Of course, you talk about House of Cards, where he plays a complete monster. But do you think that maybe it went beyond the voice as well? I mean, do you think that there was this humanity inside the Gertie character, and if so, how do you think that makes sense in the movie? How do you think he was able to get that?
Well, I think once you find out that this is not that the Sam Rockwell character is not really a human being.
In a sense, yeah.
In a sense. I think then that takes you back to Gertie, to the voice, and you think, at least I thought, wow, NASA or whoever planned this space thing really figured this out, because this voice, this Gertie, obviously says the same things.
That's true.
In the same inflection. I mean, it's a program. It's not a real person. So it got me to thinking, how in the world would you pre-plan what this voice is going to say, and how would you make it correspond with what this astronaut is doing and thinking and feeling? Because supposedly at the beginning of the movie anyway, the astronaut is a guy, and it got me to thinking at the beginning, wow, what this is kind of an odd interaction. And of course then by the time I found out that he was actually an android, and that there were many more of him.
He was a clone.
Down in the basement.
Mom, please, come on. Use the proper sci-fi technical term, Mom. He was a biological clone.
Oh yeah.
Android. Get off our show. No. But I appreciate where you're coming from. That kind of raises the question too. And seeing as you are a lady, I really was wondering towards the end, Sam Rockwell is ridiculous. He is ridiculous in this movie. And I don't want to speak to this any kind of talent, from a talent situation, but I'm wondering how the dynamic between the Sam character and Gertie would change if Kate Blanchett was playing the main lead, or if it was a female character.
And that's an interesting thing, because I don't think Gertie was ever thought to be played by Kevin Spacey until it happened.
Really?
And I think, yeah. And from what I recall, there was a 3-day situation where they had time to do it.
That's interesting.
And, and it was just one of those things where it worked out, where Spacey had the time to go in and do the voice for it.
That's
so
crazy.
It wasn't intended to be him. It wasn't ever intended to be voiced by him. Or I don't remember the entire story of it, but what I do remember is they had a very short time frame to make that work. So, Kate Blanchett, I'm any grades. Let's Morgan Freeman comes to mind from last episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, Morgan you can put Morgan
everything.
Freeman's voice on anything.
I'm great to have Leonard Nimoy do it,
Dude.
Oh, did I just drop a mic there?
How dare you? How dare you?
God!
I think
It would be pretty interesting choices.
Like, but that's another question, though. I mean, like, we're dealing with a film that does rest very heavily on the main lead. And again, when it comes to Hollywood, I think that in a lot of ways, Hollywood is the most sexist. And there are cases of there being, misogyny and bad things happening. But on the other hand, I really think that if you have a good script and a good movie, it doesn't matter the gender of the main character. So I think that I think that like this is a good example of that. Where first of all, Sam Rockwell, tour de force. We've said that multiple times. The man is ridiculous in this movie, ridiculously good. But I think this is another good example of, like, again, I go back to this. When you have good production, a script that makes sense, and quality writing and quality acting, I could see Cate Blanchett playing Sam's character, or
Why not?
yeah, or Emma, or maybe not Emma Stone. Well, maybe Emma Stone. I don't know. Anybody, really, as long as they can, still go forth and show us the transition. And that's another thing that comes through in regards to this, because this is definitely a really good character study when it comes to the different phases of life. And I think that's a really big thing that pops up when it comes to how this resonates us with humanity, with our own humanity, and the things that we are dealing with, especially now. The forefront in a lot of people's minds, and luckily, for everybody here in the show. Well, actually, Andrus, you can speak to this a lot. The forefront to a lot of people's minds right now is mortality. I mean, we are dealing with a lot of hardships right now, and that's something that film has been dealing with since its inception. And I think it really I think the fact that we see Sam's characters go through the phases of loss, go through the phases of death, I think that really does resonate with us because we can see how there's anger, disbelief, acceptance, all of it. But it's so believable, and it's so smart to do it with like an elderly clone and a young clone, and deal with like how those two parts
they're basically the same age.
Yeah, they basically are.
A few years that separate them, and that's just experience years,
Yeah, but it's it's like double dog years in the clones, though. Like 1 year in a clone's life is like 20 in a human's, or something like that.
And that's you get to see that rapid deterioration of of what you think at the beginning is a human and turns out to be a clone. That kind of got me to thinking, wow, this could really happen.
Oh, sure.
Sure.
We have enough technology to do
absolutely
things now.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like that's always been the running gag with science fiction, right? It'll become fact eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you think that like that was one of the reasons that it's kind of like a loaded term when we're talking about sci-fi and living on the moon, but do you think the realism behind this film was kind of like what kind of hooked you onto it, Mom? Or do you think it was just more of like being able to relate to what the character was going through?
Well, I'll tell you personally, and this might be totally off the wall, but for me personally, when I first started watching the film, I was having mega 2001 flashbacks.
How so?
Yeah.
Like the Y2K? Like 9/11 or the Y2K stuff, or
no, honey, the movie.
Space Odyssey.
Oh my God!
Odyssey.
Sorry,
Mike Juarez.
Sorry. Never
It's
mind.
all right. He was just well, I won't go there.
Yeah. Anyway, you were saying.
You were saying, Mom.
What I was saying. Was,
Whatever.
Yeah.
But it gave you flashbacks to
especially at the very beginning. I mean, that whole shot going into space and the moon. I mean, that's the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, 2001. That was the first thought that came to my mind.
Well, it was an homage to have like that glowing ocular thing in Gertie, like that telescoping lens. I mean, that was incarnation of Hal coming through in a more revised kind of
in a kinder kind of a way. I thought of that too, because Hal was more
he was definitely evil. I mean, he was the antagonist of that
but
movie.
in the beginning you don't know that. He's like the voice of reason,
Sure.
and then he turns evil.
I don't think that we're talking enough though about like what you picked up on earlier, Andrus, when it came to the emojis. I mean, not only does it like have like this resonance with us nowadays, because 10 years later everybody's going to their phones and we're talking with pictures just as much as we are with letters and everything. I think that was such a smart idea, because then it kind of leads us to see, you know, what Gertie's real intentions were, and some of the cool things that I saw in the scenes was when Gertie was trying to, you know, pull a lie out of his robot ass or whatever, but you could kind of tell from the emojis that like, oh, I don't want to lie to him or something like that. At least that's what I was able to take from it.
There was a conflict there, right?
Yeah. When we can go through and we can look at a movie like this and we can see that the intentions of the fake antagonist, right, end up being the things that allow us to endear that character to us. That's something I find really, really interesting. It's not everybody knows what an anti-hero is, right? We're talking like, you know, the Punisher or whatever, like, you know, somebody who lives in the gray. Very seldom do I get to see an anti-antagonist in this regard. I found it so refreshing to see that Gertie, which honestly, when I first saw this movie, and I kind of revisited a little bit when we rewatched it this week, I was
AI's gonna kill the guy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like legitimately, like I honestly thought that Gertie was going to kill Sam. I did.
I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. That same thing. Why do you think it's so important when it comes to interesting films like these? I mean, this is gonna be kind of like a dumb question, but I want you two to like kind of expand on this a little bit. It's so refreshing to not be able to predict how the characters are going to act, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's so refreshing to be able to say to yourself, okay, well, he's going to die, but then you say to yourself, then you find out that character survives, or like they're going to do something because they're the bad guy, but they end up not. Like, how did that resonate with both of you? Andrus, why don't you touch on that just a little bit, because I don't want to step on your toes, but that meant something, right? That meant something in this movie.
Well, yeah, because I mean, one, just the reveal on the fact that he ends up being a clone is a pretty great thing.
Yeah.
The other is, I like to be fully immersed into what the story is. I want that feeling of discovery. I want that feeling of, oh, what's going to happen here? It could be this or this or this or this outcome.
Yeah, it keeps you guessing.
Just that ride. It's the roller coaster, you know?
Yeah.
I really want a fully immersive experience is really what it comes down to, and to be moved and to be inspired and, you know, to feel all the things that I want to feel and interpret however I want to interpret it, whether you agree or not.
Yeah.
And I think that this movie did a lot of that for me. If I were to go on a tangent as far as what emotions I felt on it, it would be the same thing, kind of like what we're going with quarantine, you know, with
sure,
the social distancing aspects.
Yeah,
there's a lot of mental challenges that come along with only communicating with people online, or you know, lack of physical contact.
Yeah.
So for me, one of the biggest things was watching the fight between the two
that's
guys.
ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Not to mention how well they put it together in the movie.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on.
Aspects of it, the digital aspects of it.
Absolutely.
But just the sense of they finally have another human being to interact with, whether that's punching or hugging or high-fiving or whatever. It means a lot. It means so much more than, you know, the arm that is pretty.
Yeah.
You know?
Mom, what do you feel about that? Like, do you feel that like when you go through and you can't predict what the quote unquote antagonist or character in the movie is going to do, that makes it more immersive? Or do you think it like takes you out of it a little bit when you think that you know what's going to happen next, but then it gives you like the rope-a-dope?
I think
I stumped her.
Yeah, you kind of did for a minute. I was thinking of something in another direction.
Okay. Well, you can say whatever you want. I mean,
I think that that particular part of it, that kind of caught me off guard a little bit, because I was projecting and anticipating something else.
I did the exact same.
Right.
Thing.
And then when it did that switch, it sort of threw me out of it for a few seconds until I was able to.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
that didn't ruin the movie for you though?
Oh no. As a matter of fact, I think that probably made it better.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
So like Gertie kind of redeeming himself in a sense, right? Not that it was written as part of the narrative. Like this is all like internal for myself, really. When you're thinking that like, well, the jig is up. The robot knows he knows. The robot's gonna kill him. But when he doesn't, when he actually helps him, you found that refreshing. That kind of like made this a better movie for you.
Yeah, in a way, because it played counter to what I was anticipating to begin with, and that always is a kind of aha sort of a moment, like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? And then, it developed from there. So
I think it's really good too that we have this connection now. Like we have like this, what we think is something going against Gertie's character, but it's in the realm of being able to save Sam. And that's something that kind of allows us to be like, hey, okay, he's a good guy. He's not anything. He's a construct. He's a robot who may or may have not gained his own sentience and fell in love with Sam Rockwell's character. But that's reading between the lines. Speaking of, though.
In the past, maybe he's like, I don't like this version. Let's get rid of this.
That would have been, oh, man.
Hey, we didn't see that happen before. I'm just saying.
You know what? I think you've kind of touched on something, because like with a little creative imagination and creative writing, you could have turned this from man versus universe and survival tale to like the redemption of Gertie. Like he was a bad guy, and then maybe it started to feel guilty for what it did. I mean, it's just that's very powerful. I mean,
I have a question. Does the robot know everything that's going on?
Yeah, it's safe to assume. There's a scene where Gertie is actually speaking to the lunar company heads.
Right.
Yeah. So he's aware of all of the Sams that are down below.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Okay.
Most definitely. That's part of his programming, is to integrate them into
the
awareness, I guess.
And he does that by lying to him when they wake up.
Which is an interesting thing if you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Talk about trust issues.
Oh, God, right?
That's like, well, wake up. You had an accident.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
You mean the Petri dish?
Yeah, exactly.
Pay
you mean the pod I've been unaware?
Yeah, it's kind of like Wizard of Oz-ish, Pay no attention to that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
To that clone that's walking up the stairs.
Yeah, only
that happens to look just like you.
Instead of a green curtain, now we have like a metal floor plate they have to pry up. It's just
I mean that's something that I think is pretty interesting too, because what is the purpose of the rescuers?
Oh, right? Yeah. That's a great question. Are they there really to
just reset the scene,
right,
so to speak, because there was an accident?
Oh yeah, maybe so.
You know what I mean? Because the whole rescue mission was the idea of what was going on, right?
Yes.
Right.
But the other Sam hadn't officially expired.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's one thing that we have to talk about a bit when it comes to the series of events. What happens is Sam Rockwell plays this clone we've already talked about, and because of his deteriorating, physiology, he begins hallucinating. These hallucinations cause him to get into an accident with one of these big moon mining robots that's combing literally the surface of the moon. The system reboots, and we have another Sam, a younger version, a more update, more capable, at least for the time being, Sam Bell.
Yes.
Fresher package, exactly.
Right.
But being the go-getter that he is, he goes out to the field and finds out what the hell is going on. This robot's not working. I have to figure out why. This is my job. This is my ownership. That's his agency in this entire situation, by the way. Sam Bell has to be the master of his own universe, and it really does have a really interesting twist when we find out that he's anything but. But anyway, Sam goes through, he finds the older clone, the entire thing is just flipped on its heels, and we find out that this turns from this interesting science fiction kind of work drama to man versus man, man versus universe, man versus corporation. And what a really smart thing that popped in here in the narrative, I think, was without that urgency, this is a terrible movie. I mean, talk about like the different kind of character studies that you can have. It can be kind of like a romance kind of thing. This thing about maybe even a man finding himself and being able to relate and grow as a person, but without the fact that you have presumably a killing crew that's going to land onto the lunar surface and kill the clones so that they can, brush it all under the rug. Yeah, it sets the urgency of what's going on, which in and of itself then causes this dramatic friction between both Sams. Who's going to leave? Who's right? Who's the real Sam Bell? All those questions are answered, but they're done in a really wonderful humanitarian way. And it doesn't go without violence either. Like going back to what you were talking about, Andrus, the fight scene between both the Sams is ridiculously good. And I wanted to come back to that point that you made, where technically speaking, this isn't a very CGI heavy film. There's blue screen and stuff, but we're using, quote unquote, like older technology. It's just used so competently with the fight choreography, with the dialogue, with the switch in the shots. I usually like we're on Zoom right now. And just for those, you guys aren't going to be able to see this when, you listen to the podcast, but, we have video with each other because we like looking at each other. And Andrus is a very handsome individual. I'm moderately handsome. My mom is a floating head right now, so it's comic relief, but she's a beautiful elderly woman. But we're using Zoom, and in the background, you have this picture of the moon looking over the earth, this very famous picture, but there's aliasing around your head. There's like this, white layer or whatever, which is a constant when you're using like blue screen and that kind of stuff. Yeah. This was done so competently, and the spacing and the shot was wide enough so that you couldn't see, from a technical standpoint, you couldn't see any aliasing when it came to Sam Rockwell and Robin Chalk, who was the gentleman who played the other Sam Bell.
Who played the other Sam as a real human to do the filming, right?
Absolutely. When you're going through, let's just talk about spacing. Let's talk about being on your mark. As actors, can you guys imagine how difficult that must have been to make sure that everybody's in the right place?
Oh, yeah.
Well, especially during the fighting scene.
That's choreography on so many levels.
Right. Very much so.
I think the most choreography is done by the camera, because if the camera is moved at all...
they were flying with them, yeah.
It's got to be so accurately placed that that's very difficult to do. If somebody bumps the camera, you've got to reset all of it.
Yeah, I really take my hat off to the people, the camera people filming that. I've only been involved in stage combat, which is difficult enough to make look real. So yeah, that was really a stunning moment to see that fight happen, because you know what goes into making that happen.
Yeah, and it feels like you're involved with the fight, with the framing that they decided to use, because they went in so close. So, you see the face of the primary Sam, whichever one that is in the moment, whichever one has Sam Rockwell's face, right?
Yeah.
And the other person is very strategically hidden in the over the shoulder or in the headlock or whatever it is, rolling around on the floor.
Yeah.
It was beautifully done, and I don't skip a beat as far as believing the fight between the two Sams.
Oh, absolutely. We had a great choreography pushed through. We had cinematography by Gary Shaw. We had editing by Nicholas Gaster that were coming through, and some of the credits that they have in the background, like going through the independent circuit and doing a lot. Mostly like working with the original crew that came through. Like when it comes to Gary Shaw, he was working on The Machine, movie that came out in 2013. He worked on the other movie that was made for Netflix by Duncan Jones, Mute, and a lot of the same kind of style coming through, where you have these close 1v1s switching to the wide, but it's still contained within the set. And one thing that a subject that you kind of brought up here, Andrus, I'm happy that they didn't do the whole twin movie thing where they did the over the shoulder of the stuntman or the other Sam double too much.
Both of the Sams fighting each other at the same time.
Yeah. I think that it's just really a dedication to, I can only imagine how many takes they did. And also the editing bay must have been
the editing was
ridiculous.
Well, that also means that, the hair and wardrobe
Oh, ridiculous!
Oh
yeah.
yeah, everything. has
Everybody
to-
else that was part of that to make them distinctly different Sams
Yeah.
added to that idea of immersion.
They had a huge art department on this film,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it was just really they had, and it wasn't just like property master and then standby painter, head painter. We had like on the set there were storyboard artists, there were scenic artists, there were drapes masters that were incorporated into this film. And it's another thing that comes through too is the crew. This was a major film once it started getting some fire under it, and when it comes to in relation to huge blockbuster stuff, the crew is relatively small. I mean, we are dealing with like a few hundred people, obviously, but
super small cast crew.
absolutely, and yet we have like this quality piece here. I mean, if the writing's strong, if the cast is strong, and if the crew is strong, I mean, obviously, right, it's going to give you a good product. When we then come back and see all of these things coming together then, and this is like one of the things where I this is one of the movies that I feel so fortunate to have gotten a bit of a look into the back end. Like it's the same thing that I mentioned when we were looking at Outbreak in our last episode, where it must have been so fun to be on the crew of that movie because it was so big. It was a major summer blockbuster when it came out.
Right.
There is definitely something romantic to be said about being on an indie film and having a small, concise group of people that are just dedicated and capable of being able to provide a quality product without all the bells and whistles. It's competent
all of the independent projects that I've worked on have been ultimately ending in family. So like you really do feel like you've gone through a war together, or that you've become close human beings like family.
Yeah.
It's a pretty special thing. And that's why you get directors that work with DPs all the time.
Absolutely.
You get directors that work with the same actors all the time, producers. It becomes a family because there becomes a shorthand and just kind of a trust between the people in whatever department that they're in.
I think that's really important to understand that like the humanity that is trying to be pushed not only in the narrative, absolutely, and I've been subject to that, affects the people who are working on it. Obviously, art, especially when it's good art, changes people, and usually it does so for the better. But we've been spouting out like accolades and congratulations and good stuff for this piece of work for like the past hour. Andrus, what rubbed you the wrong way when it came to this movie? What didn't you? What was it that you didn't like?
I don't know that there is anything in this that I didn't, because I mean, and I'm pretty forgiving with movies. I'm entertained.
I gotcha.
I will say that like there's very few movies out there where I'm like, that was just garbage, that was just trash.
Yeah.
Because I also appreciate the effort and energy and sweat, blood, and tears that go into making it.
Yeah.
So they did something and they made it, right?
Yeah.
But in this one, I was completely entertained, and like there was enough mystery in there. There was enough intrigue. There was enough.
The reveals happen at the right place.
Yeah, and you've got a really, really talented actor who's interesting to watch because you don't know how volatile he really is.
And that's a good point.
Any of his characters. So he's fun to watch, and then you combine that with the rest of the cast. It's just they did a really terrific job in putting this movie together. I think on every single level.
Wow, that's high praise.
I'm not an expert in all of the other departments, but I really didn't see a flaw in there. And I mean, I really didn't. I can't think of any continuity issues to complain about. I can't think of any.
That's usually the big one.
Issues or visual issues.
Yeah, everything happened for a reason.
And the story was really impactful, and it was meaningful, and it was a character that I wanted to watch to whatever his resolution is.
Yeah.
The story was a good story.
Yeah. Mom, do you think there are any holes in this? Do you agree with Andrus to say that it was pretty much flush to the wall and doing a pretty good job?
Yeah, I do agree with that. And I look for things like that. Being a costumer and a makeup person on top of being an actor, there's like 3 specific areas that without even thinking about it, I'm just drawn to,
Sure.
why is this?
Sure.
Why was his hair combed to that side in the last?
Right.
No, it's true. These are
You know?
the tiny little things that all three of us, and I think anybody who's done any kind of production thinks about. Sometimes it ruins a movie for you.
Oh, it does.
A lot of times.
And especially if you've worked in the industry or even in live theater, you realize how important it is from scene to scene to scene for that continuity to be there.
Sure.
And I imagine people who don't work in the field probably don't notice it as much. But I know for me, and I don't know for you, Andrus, but for me, when I'm sitting and watching a film, if some little thing that maybe nobody else would notice, I notice, that automatically puts like a check mark on that film. And
sure.
And I go,
Sure.
well,
Yeah, even with the dialogue, as Mike mentioned earlier, it's just like if there's any flaw in there that takes you out of it,
yeah.
if you're aware of it, it'll do it. And on this one, I was enthralled the entire time.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
This was seamless.
That doesn't happen very often because I think both of you have a pretty good eye. Like Mom's been on a couple of episodes. This will be episode number 3 that we were fortunate enough to have her on. And another of our individual who used to talk with us a lot, Andrus, Mr. Umberto Estrada, sometimes would he would sometimes find reasons to be angry at movies, but like he would always come with like competent criticism.
Well, right, and I appreciate that. On this one, I'm hard pressed to find it, other than like, why did you hire Kevin Spacey?
Yeah. Right. No, for sure. I mean,
Right.
they're
Why
like,
hire Sam and not Andrus?
you
I
can.
wonder why.
Dude, we should make a stage production of this.
Yeah.
I'll be Gertie. I'll operate the puppet, and then you can be Sam, and we'll get your brother or somebody to put on some hair or whatever, and make this shit happen.
Moon,
Oh, excuse me.
the one-man show.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
There was one thing actually that I didn't like about this movie, and it
What was
was it's interesting that you bring up dialogue because that's exactly what it was. But the thing is that I can understand as to why it didn't happen. When we get to the scene where Sam Numero Dos, the younger clone, is shutting down Gertie, I just wish that he was a little more warm to the robot. I mean, but he does. That's sacrificed for Sam to take ownership of who he is as an individual, because Gertie says, I'll tell them about it, or something. I'm paraphrasing, but then the last thing that Sam says to Gertie is, again, I'm paraphrasing, is that they're not clones, Gertie, they're people. And then he goes through with the shutdown process. I honestly, it might be the romantic in me, but I would have loved for Sam to say thank you. I would love for Sam to really just look at Gertie, say goodbye, call him a friend or something, and then correct him in the usage of his language in regards to how his
I
identity.
understand why you would want to say that, but I thought it was so accurate.
Yeah.
Because it's the new Sam.
Yeah, no,
He
it
doesn't
tracks.
have that relationship with Gertie. If it was old Sam, absolutely.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, where I
How
can't get too
dare
angry
you.
at it. I know, how dare you.
Robert argue with Michael. How dare you?
I know.
Dare you.
I just, it was definitely like the soft cockles of my heart that just wanted these two friends to just be able to have that kind of romantic way of saying goodbye. But that's the thing too. That's what saves it. It makes sense. The new clone did not have a developed relationship with this
Right.
character.
Whereas I would argue that there was no difference in Gertie's perspective
It was very tight. Yeah.
between the Sams.
Yeah.
Because Sam is always Sam.
Yes. That's what I picked up too. It wasn't.
I get that. I get why you're saying that, but I don't think that the new Sam had the experience or certainly the compassion.
Yeah.
And the struggle that the older Sam.
That's
had
absolutely true.
Develop that.
I do kind of wish that towards the end of the film he would have started referring to them as Sams, like plural, just like a cute little thing. But of course, it's not.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. Well,
because they were.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
There's 3.
So when we go through then and talk about getting towards the end of the episode here, guys, let's jump into what we usually do, and that's just like the specialization part. And we touched on it a little bit. But Andrus, I'd like you to go first. I'd like you to really give me like a really bare bones yet competent yet inspiring. No, I'm kidding. How was the
Sounds like a director I used to work with.
Exactly, right? I need you to do everything that you're doing, but just do it completely different.
Yeah.
How good was the... No, I'll ask you a better question. Why? Why was Sam Rockwell so good in this film? What was it that made this such a quality piece of his work and his
Well, I think anytime that you get an actor that has to play multiple parts in anything,
has its own
whether
challenges.
Whatever that is.
Michael Keaton proved that, like back in 92 or 91 or something. He did like that twin movie where it was like another clone movie. Multiplicity. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
It's always interesting because you've got to remember so many different timelines as the actor for portraying the different characters at whatever points in their story that you're living those moments. And it's hard enough to do tracking one. So when you have to track more than that and still give the performance with authenticity and humanity and making them a very, very full character, it's always impressive when it feels like they're two different people.
That's great. That's a great point.
Right.
So the hardest thing that I think that he had was, and I would give Gwyneth Paltrow kudos for this too with her film Sliding Doors.
Yeah.
There's a specific point in time where her life shifts.
Yeah, from a subway sliding door closing.
Storylines of the same person.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, and there's a new TV show out right now called Counterpart that also does that.
Okay.
So all of these actors are playing multiple versions of one person with a history up to one point in their life.
Yeah.
And that just becomes wild. And understanding that, this older Sam has all of these experiences and knowledge that new Sam doesn't, and now they're collaborating.
Right.
Give new Sam so much more information to be prepared for whatever world they're in.
It was such like a father-son kind of thing, right?
It really is. And it's brothers and it's enemies and it's so many different things.
It's delicious.
And it's complicated, but it's so simple.
Yeah.
Because if you know who the character is, it doesn't matter what the rest of the circumstances are, because then you're just living the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
So you just need to be a very competent actor to pull it off, for sure.
It's so hard.
And hats off to everybody that's done it, and that includes Sam.
Yeah. Mom, I kind of like want to raise the same question to you, but what I want to put into it, because you have a history of being a props master too when it came to the theater that the Grand Rapids Civic Theater that you did a lot of productions of when you still lived in Michigan. How, from that perspective, how does continuity affect an actor when they're dealing with two different personalities, when they're dealing with two different sets of props, young, old versus new, that kind of thing? How can that complicate things, and how, as an actor, do you have to get around that in order to make sure that things still maintain that organic feel? Well, big question, I know, but that's what we do here at Full Focus.
In my experience, doing two or three things at the same time for a theater organization, the actor is sort of left out of it in a way, and by that I mean you don't really.
Well, it becomes more than just muscle memory for them, though, right? I mean, it's more than just handing them the prop.
Not really. When it comes to props, I mean, you know where your specific prop is located on the props table, and I mean, there's a hard and fast rule in theater: if it's not yours, don't touch it.
Yeah,
because that's where the actor is going to go for it every time. That you are responsible for making sure that the actor doesn't even have to think about the prop. If they have to walk off stage and grab something, it's just always there and it's always in the same place.
Could you see difficulties arise in that particular kind of facet of production?
Oh, absolutely.
Given something like The Moon?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. For instance, if Sam Rockwell had to, open up one of the bins or something
Sure.
in the main set, and there was supposed to be a gizmo of some sort there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. If you're the actor and you open that bin and you've been through a gazillion rehearsals and that thing is there, and if all of a sudden that thing isn't there,
Oh, sure.
then you're thrown into the panicky situation of having to ad-lib something, because why else did you go to that? It's not so much on film,
But to your point,
in
though,
live
that
theater it is.
Sure, but to your point, that ruins a take, and when that ruins a
Oh,
take,
yeah.
that's money, that's film, that's
Ruin
time.
My life, and I throw a tantrum.
Oh yeah,
That's
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, me too.
my persona. It ruins my personality for good.
I got you. That set the entire production as a wash at that point.
Oh yeah,
Everything must be perfect.
absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, but I mean, I want to add on to that
Yeah.
as far as for the actor perspective, and you can tell me what you think about this too, is the fact that he had his hat, his sunglasses, or his hand wrapping from his injury. Those totally assist in the muscle memory and the idea of the continuity for that character as well.
Absolutely.
As soon as you put on the different wardrobe,
Wicked.
you feel like that different person.
Wicked.
Right.
Which is
Right.
It's so cool they're able to use that as a point in the narrative for like an argument too. Where are my sunglasses? Those are my sunglasses. Where are my slippers? I'm using them.
It's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
They're mine. No, they're mine. No, and that just like started out the fight and everything was amazing.
Yeah.
When it comes to where I come from, like as you guys know, I did have the great fortune of running sound on a couple of indie productions, direct to video, that kind of thing. But it definitely was a good education when it came to not only to the production itself and being assisting on sound like that, but also the post as well. And what we usually talk about when it comes to my specialization, Andrus, is weighs a lot on the post. And I think that this film is a really good, not so much the field audio, the live audio. That's going to be pretty simple, quite honestly. I mean, I don't want to like...
Yeah, because you've got boom and labs and whatever you do, right?
And also, you're in a confined environment. This is
Right.
a completely like soundstage situation.
Yeah, for sure.
We're not doing anything outside. We're not worrying about planes going across and having to, bust out, different kind of things to make sure the rain doesn't get on the microphone, that kind of thing. It's a controlled environment.
Mm-hmm.
The beautiful thing about this, and it's something that we touch on all the time, and I'm glad and that we touch on it a lot, because it's something that every person who has done any kind of production from an audio background, regardless of if it's like you're overcharging your credit card and it's just going to be on YouTube, or if it's going to be a multi-million-dollar Russo film production, it's the appreciation of silence in the film. And when it came to the post edit, when it came to the way in which silence was used, which happens a lot, which we've touched on, happens I think in sci-fi more in almost any other genre, especially when you're out in space and everything. It becomes its own character. And I was just so happy to see these wide pan shots, these close-ups coming through when there wasn't any dialogue. It was just the sound of the machinery working in the background, because that has its own weight, that has its own spacing, and it's just really wonderful to see that used really, really well. When you go through and you're recording people, it's one thing to make sure the signal is just clean and that during action scenes, people's lives don't fall off of their chest or whatever. And especially when you're in a controlled environment, it's a lot easier than doing it, outside, like I mentioned before. But the post work and the appreciation for spacing, and the things that, even though you're on this sci-fi adventure, the sound's making sense, including the part of the silence. I not only loved watching this movie, but I enjoyed listening to it. And that was an absolute pleasure.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad. Was there anything else other than that line, that last line that you would criticize in that?
I don't think so. Only because I think that was so important, because I'm a softie at heart when it comes to that kind of stuff. So
Sure. But I mean, overall, I would say that this is a pretty darn great movie.
It's tight as hell.
very
Not that I would
tight.
say perfect, but it's perfect in its imperfections, if there are any.
Well, it definitely speaks to why it got so much notoriety and so much popularity during Sundance Film Festival. This thing took off. It got super popular after the festival circuit. Let me go through our, the fourth cast member of our show, imdb.com, and let me check and see if we have any kind of like rewards that popped up here. So it was Dolby Digital. So the budget was estimated at $5 million. Opening weekend, it only made $136,000 in June 14th, 2009. But overall, the cumulative worldwide gross was almost $10 million, almost doubling the budget. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Successful movie.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the USA gross. Again, I'm not exactly sure how old these estimates are in regards to IMDb. They're usually pretty up to date, but it was over $5 million. $5,010,163, which by the law of finance that we have in Hollywood, if you make your budget, you're a success. That's the way it works. But man, what a great movie and what a great story, especially now at these times, and especially seeing as we have a piece of art here that is a cornerstone of how in-depth and wonderful a character can be in isolation. It's always nice to see also how it was his humanity and it was his open mind, and also the situation at hand which allowed that isolation to be broken, which we could see towards the end of the movie, where Sam too successfully makes it back down to Earth and is able to ruin the Lunar Company with the truth that they're using slave labor and clones. But it was also very beautiful to see where these two individuals, though they were so familiar and so similar, but also so different, they were able to make that choice. They were able to say, hey, I'm here. I know you're here. You're the one who has to jump on that ship, brother. It's going to be better for you to do it than I am. And to no longer be isolated in a very isolating circumstance, I think, is a beautiful thing to see in a piece of work like this, especially given nowadays when, the only thing that we really want more than almost anything is to be able to hug another human being. But,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
But definitely a testament to competent, tight, wonderful filmmaking and acting. And that's where we're going to end the episode, everybody. We really do appreciate the time that you've taken to listen to us talk about this. If you have not seen the 2009 sci-fi hit Moon, I definitely suggest that you get onto your Netflix. It is currently airing there right now. And give a little love to Sam Rockwell and the incredible remaining cast and crew that made this beautiful film a reality. As you do, don't be afraid to, check us out on YouTube. That's a different website. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Yeah, exactly. Follow us on SoundCloud. Go ahead and email us, pullfocuspod@gmail.com. Did you like this movie? Were you able to see it? Did you agree with us? Did you not? Because remember, we may be wrong, but it's your job to tell us. And as usual, I just want to take a moment and say thank you so very much, Andrus, for taking time out of your day to talk with us. It's always so good to see you. Thank you, Mom, Madam Sharon Hayes, to provide us a learned opinion.
Dame Sharon
okay.
Hayes.
Well, okay. We'll work on it. And also, seeing as we are in trying times like we did the last episode, all three of us want to give a shout out to, if you're listening and you happen to be anybody who is, helping on the front lines. If you are anybody who is providing a little comfort to anyone, either because it's your job or because you're just a nice person or because you're, a care provider and you're doing what you can to make this less of a problem, we really, truly appreciate what you do. We really, want to say thank you. God bless you, and
stay safe.
And to stay safe, and more movies to come. Yeah, thank you so very much. But that's it. You guys take care. Andrus, always good to talk to you. Thank you. And Mom.
Right back at you.
Andrus, nice to see you again.
So good to see you. I love having these chats.
Okay. Save it for the post roll. Okay, guys. All right. We're out. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.